It's the most dramatic play in Super Bowl history, coming at the end of the greatest Super Bowl ever. Malcolm Butler's goal line interception secured victory for the New England Patriots in Super Bowl 49 on February 1, 2015, and spawned a million "The Butler Did It" headlines. But what went into that memorable moment? Let's look at the key players and how they got there. We'll start with those on the scene. The other Patriot there is cornerback Brandon Browner, who has quite the story. Undrafted out of Oregon State, he signed with the Denver Broncos, but a broken arm in preseason meant he missed the whole year and then was cut. He spent 5 years in the Canadian Football League, winning a Grey Cup, before finally landing an NFL contract with the Seattle Seahawks and making the Pro Bowl in his first season. Browner had become a Super Bowl champion with the Seahawks in 2014, only he didn't get to play in the game because he was suspended for substance abuse. So the Seahawks moved on, but Browner landed with the Patriots. And this Super Bowl pitted him against his former team and Seahawks head coach Pete Carroll, as Patriots quarterback Tom Brady noted.
We've had a little insight from Brandon Browner, who's talked to us about, kind of how he coaches, and I think Pete's run the same defense for a long time.
On the field in crunch time, Browner blocking Jermaine Kearse was key to Butler's interception. We'll get to Kearse in a moment, but Browner's story needs its postscript. Because he signed with the New Orleans Saints after this, but was terrible in his only year there. And one preseason back with Seattle later, he was out of the league. And then the downward spiral really happened. In 2017, he was arrested for cocaine possession. Then a year later, he broke into his ex-girlfriend's home and would eventually be sentenced to 8 years for attempted murder. On that cheery note, let's get back to Kearse, number 15 for the Seahawks. He's in his 3rd season after being undrafted and will go on to have a solid career. But he's particularly dangerous because of what he's been doing in the postseason. A year earlier, he caught the go-ahead touchdown pass on 4th down in the 4th quarter of the NFC Championship game against the San Francisco 49ers. He scored another TD in the Seahawks Super Bowl win over the Denver Broncos. And this postseason, he's kept the streak going. First against the Carolina Panthers, and then again another clutch NFC title game moment, a game-winning touchdown in overtime against the Green Bay Packers. In this game, he just might have topped it with an incredible juggling catch just 2 plays earlier to bring the Seahawks to the 5-yard line. But here, he's not the intended receiver. Instead, the play was called for Ricardo Lockett. Lockett was undrafted as well and signed with the Seahawks, but after his debut season, bounced around practice squads before returning to Seattle in time to play in that Super Bowl win against the Broncos. Largely unremarkable leading up to this moment, and destined for an injury-enforced retirement little more than a year later, Lockett is perhaps a strange choice to throw to. Actually, it's a strange choice to be throwing at all. Because Seattle's running back is the best in the business. Marshawn Lynch, also known as Beast Mode, and famously unwilling to talk to the media, as he proved in the lead-up to this game.
Hey, I'm just here so I don't get fined.
A first-round pick by the Buffalo Bills in 2007, Lynch had started well, with a pair of 1,000-yard seasons and a Pro Bowl selection before a combination of suspension, injury, and the strong play of his replacement, Fred Jackson, saw the Bills willing to trade Lynch. The Seahawks swooped in 2010, trading a couple of middling draft picks for him, and Beast Mode proved that was a bargain. A memorable run to score against New Orleans in that year's playoffs was followed by 4 straight seasons of 1,200-plus rushing yards and more than 10 touchdowns, plus a few catches in there as well. He topped 1,500 yards in 2012. and in 2014 had career highs in rushing and receiving TDs. He'd start again in the playoffs, and in this game, he'd already rushed 1 touchdown. And in between Kearse's catch and the final play, Lynch had run to the 1-yard line. The game's best running back with a single yard needed to win. He's the obvious choice, right? When that play was called and I saw the expression on the other 10 guys' faces in there, when they heard the call, they looked right at me, Lynch later said. Explain yourself, Pete Carroll.
We had sent in our personnel, they sent in goal line. It's not the right matchup for us to run the football, so we on 2nd down, we throw the ball, really to kind of waste that play. If we score, we do. If we don't, then we'll run it in on 3rd and 4th down. Really with no second thoughts, no hesitation.
Carroll was hired by Seattle in 2010 after an 8-year stint in college with USC and a few short coaching roles in the NFL before that, including with the Patriots. He was actually Bill Belichick's predecessor at New England. In Seattle, his defensive unit allowed the fewest points per game 4 years running and became known as the Legion of Boom. He, of course, lifted the Lombardi Trophy a year earlier, so he had some credit in the bank. But still, this has to be the worst call in Super Bowl history. Not that he deserves 100% of the blame. He didn't throw the ball himself. Russell Wilson did. Now known as one of the greatest dual-threat quarterbacks of the 2010s, the multi-talented Wilson could pass, run, and hit a baseball. He was twice picked in the MLB draft, but chose football, and was picked in the 3rd round by the Seahawks in 2012. But he quickly proved himself to be a star, setting rookie records for passing touchdowns and passer rating in his first season, leading the Seahawks to Super Bowl glory in his 2nd, and in 2014, becoming the first player with 300 passing yards and 100 rushing yards in the same game. Wilson had thrown 4 interceptions in the NFC Championship game, but the Seahawks won anyway thanks to his overtime pass to Kearse. In this game, he's already thrown 2 touchdowns and led the Seahawks to a 24-14 lead going into the 4th quarter. Then, Tom Brady happened. It's a fair bet you know the Brady story by now. But at this point, he and the Patriots had gone 10 years without winning a Super Bowl, and their form earlier this season led to some suggestions the dynasty was dead. It wasn't, of course. They made it here, though not without controversy. Their AFC Championship game over Indianapolis was marred by allegations the Patriots had used deflated footballs, dominating the talk heading into the Super Bowl and ultimately seeing Brady suspended to start the 2016 season. In this game, Brady threw 2 touchdowns in the 2nd quarter and then in a 10-point hole going into the 4th, produced a Brady special, throwing another 2 on 2 straight drives. Now, Wilson and the Seahawks had answered back with a Brady-esque 2-minute drill. All that remained was Butler's moment. Butler, like the others in this photo, was undrafted, but earned a place on the Patriots roster in training camp. He was well down on the depth chart though, and mostly played a bit part. In this game, he hadn't even seen any action until the 3rd quarter, when the Patriots were trying to stem a Seattle tide and he was matched up with Kearse. He'd done well and was unlucky on that amazing Kearse catch, but still, this was an incredible play from an undrafted rookie. But he'd read the game.
I went to the side, came back out. They called goal line 3 corner. It was goal line 3 corner for a reason, and I just jumped the route.
Unbelievable play by Malcolm. I mean, we didn't call a timeout, and the clock was running down. I realized, this was basically it. If we stopped them, and I saw the interception, I couldn't believe it. And it was just an incredible play.
Butler has since gone on to have a solid career and earned a huge payday when moving to the Tennessee Titans in 2018. But it's surely impossible to ever top a moment like this.